hater, but do you recall the biggest poverty pimp of them all? Shopton the phony Reverend.
Aw, Merry Christmas from Jim Gossett Comedy. He is the man who puts those song parodies together for us. I am Mary Walter. Welcome to Mary Walter Radio. James Rabick, my work husband, is here. I see. Look at your hat matches your beard.
Crazy, right? I didn't notice it until I looked at it on camera. I'm like, yay.
And you have a Christmas sweater on. How nice.
I do.
I can so tell you're in love. Oh yeah, of course, because it's one of those pig things. So yeah, you were dressed by the girlfriend. Clearly.
So you're half right. I mean, we have matching one of these, and this became her hat because she gets cold. But yeah, I was like, you know what? I don't actually have a Christmas sweater, and it's got a guinea pig on it, but you know.
You need a Christmas sweater like my sweater. So if you missed my Christmas sweater and hubby's Christmas outfit, just go to YouTube and watch Tuesday's Life with Mary Walter. It's in there. It's hilarious. It's classic. And it would win any ugly sweater contest there is out there. Hands down.
My guinea pigger gets a lot of comments. Yours would be a showstopper.
Oh, yeah.
Yours is like, hold on. Forget the pig. Let's look at this. Hold on.
So many people kept saying to me, like, it's just disturbing talking to you right now.
Yeah.
So you have to go check it out. Just go to youtube.com. Look for Mary Walter Radio and just look for on Tuesday. So 2 days ago, the podcast Life with Mary Walter. And it is there. Before we start the show, excuse me, I'm choking. I apologize for that. Please subscribe to the channel if you have not done so. Please like the podcast. We appreciate that. You can catch the audio on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Just search for Mary Walter. If you put in Mary Walter, both podcasts will come up. If you put in Mary Walter Radio, only the Thursday night political podcast comes up. So if you just search on Mary Walter, both Life with Mary Walter and Mary Walter Radio will come up on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. So let's see who's with us, shall we? Bill, the first out of the box. Hello, Bill. Al is with us. Ron is with us. Can we all start calling the VP work in progress, Harrison, please? Work in progress. Tina says, hi guys, at work being the breadwinner. Love you both. Good. Glad somebody's working.
There we go.
Excuse me. Glad somebody's getting paid. So speaking of which, just so you know, tomorrow, starting tomorrow and then every day next week from noon to 3 Eastern time, I will be in for Rob Carson on Newsmax Radio. Jim Angon is here on Getter. Hello, Jim. I look over here because that's where the Getter screen is. I look over here like he can see me looking at him. So yes, Jim. Hi. So starting tomorrow and all of next week, noon to 3, I am in for Rob Carson on the Rob Carson Show. You can also stream it on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, and it's also on TuneIn. And I'll post everything in the description on this video, on this podcast. So if you want to tune in, you can. Also, if you follow me on Twitter, Mary Walter Radio, I tweet out all my shows as they come up. Monday, I'm doing Rob Carson's show, and then I'm also going to be on Chris Salcedo's show on Newsmax TV. It's usually between 4:30 and 5 p.m. Eastern, but that can change. But again, I tweet all that information out. Tuesday, you can start your day with me starting at 6 o'clock in the morning, 6 to 10 a.m. I'm on KTSA out of San Antonio, where one woman will be filling in for 3 separate men on 2 different shows. And then again, noon to 3 for Rob Carson. And then we will do our Life with Mary Walter podcast that evening, 7:15 p.m. And then I'll tell you the rest of my week then. But I'll post all this, like I said, on the podcast in the description section. So you can check if you want to catch me. I would appreciate that. But if you follow me on Twitter at Mary Walter Radio, You can, I tweet it all out. James, I can never figure out who you are on Twitter versus who you are on Facebook. It's hard. So you're James Richard Rabick on Twitter, right?
Right, and James Richard Switch on Facebook.
Isn't it James Switch? I don't know what you are. Why don't you just pick a name and go with it?
Well, that's I had to wait the 90 days to change my name, but I think I've just surpassed that 90 days. And I am Switch on Facebook, correct? Because I mean,
why did you have to wait 90 days?
When you change your name, you have to wait 90 days to change it to something.
So you changed it 90 days ago?
I think now we crossed the 90-day line, yeah.
But what was it before?
James Rabick, my normal name. Just my regular old hi. And I just got bored. I'm like, oh, you can change your name? I'm like, oh, what happens if I do this? And then it does it. And it goes, great, you got to keep it for 90 days. And I'm like, oh, that's an interesting experiment. And then it was a flood of people like, what's this name, James Richard Switch? I'm like, it's just nicknames thrown together. I was just being funny.
Matt H. Doug 48 is with us as well on Getter. Hello, Matt. Good to have you. Okay, so
real quick, can I pause before we do it? I gotta say one thing. I can't take this hat. It's 800 degrees. Holy crap, that hat is hot. I am literally dying like it's an oven in this house.
And you're newly shorn. I would like everyone to notice that you've been like spit shined. You're like all cleaned up, dude.
It was so bad that I got a call from my parents that said this separately, by the way. There's been a paid haircut arranged for you on the 22nd, which was today at 10 a.m. and you will be there because Christmas. And I was like, they're like, just show up and get your haircut. I'm like, okay. So thanks, Nick. Thank you, parents. Yep. Okay.
Oh, gee, come on. You're almost 50 years old and your parents have to arrange for a haircut for you?
I kind of didn't want one, but they teamed up.
You kind of needed one.
Oh yeah, they got her into it. They're like, he needs a haircut, right? She's like looking around. She's like, yep.
I can't believe you're 50 years old and your parents are still scheduling and paying for haircuts for you. It's frightening. Absolutely frightening. Okay, so at the end of the show, I just want to talk a little bit about your traditions surrounding Christmas, like Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, or Hanukkah traditions. Those are cool too, like with food. If you see my camera moving, it's because Oliver, one of my cats, is on my table, and he just shook himself like a dog, and the camera went like this. So we are not having an earthquake in New Jersey, just in case you're wondering. Yeah, just like that. By the way, for those of you who are in like the really, really cold parts of the country, holy Christmas. So, I keep track of the temperatures and everything out in Big Sky, right? Because hubby and I are always looking at the snowpack and the snowfall and everything for skiing. And even though we're not going there this year, even though we're going to Idaho, I still like to keep track of it out there. So one of my friends lives and works out there, and they actually closed the mountain today. No skiing today. It was too cold. So I said to him, and it's a beautiful bluebird day. The skies are absolutely beautiful blue, and there isn't a skier. There's not a lift running, nothing. So he said when he got up this morning, it was minus 38. That's not the wind chill. That was the actual temperature. Minus 38.
I've told this a bunch of times in a bunch of places. It took 17 degrees to keep it short for me to realize it was chilly. But minus 38 is cold for anybody on the planet everywhere.
But you've lost a lot of weight, so your ability to withstand the cold may have been decreased because you don't have that protective fat layer anymore.
I'm still in a t-shirt today. Walking around in a t-shirt. I thought that too. I kind of almost hoped to turn normal. It'd be nice not to be in a 68-degree house going, oh, God, please somebody turn the air on,
You should come here. We still have not turned the heat on in our house yet. I'm trying to make it to January 1st with no heat. So the only thing we have are the radiant heated floors in the kitchen and the TV room go on. And the cats love that. You can always tell where it is because there's a cat like sprawled out, like, like as wide as they possibly can to absorb the heat. The fireplace in our bedroom is gas. So if it's really, really cold, like in the morning, or if it goes below 60 in our bedroom at night, that will come on automatically. So if it goes into the 50s, that will come on. The house heat, I think, is set for like 55. So if it goes below 55, the heat will come on because my husband's convinced the pipes are going to freeze. So he doesn't want to have to deal with that. So if it hits 55 in the house, the air conditioning the heat will come on.
Yeah.
And I make a fire every day. There's a rip-roaring fire. I should go on Survivor because if I would win every fire making contest.
I love a good fire.
Everyone. Hold on, I have to turn these off before the battery dies. Hang on.
You're right.
Hold on. There we go. Okay. So I was lugging wood in today. I'm convinced the neighbors look at me and like, that poor woman. That poor woman, because I'm constantly lugging wood around. Oliver.
Her husband just won't turn on the heat. Jeez, what a slave driver.
Even when the heat's on, though, we have fires going because it's cheaper. It's free wood, saves money. So we do that.
Okay.
So here's what he said very quickly. He said, minus 38 this morning. My truck barely started. My door wouldn't latch on his truck. And my brake lines froze. Now he is in the canyon. So he's not even at altitude up at the resort, right? He's about a 10-minute drive. He's in the canyon and you go up the mountain. He said, I had to hold the door closed driving to work. And then I could barely stop. The ski hill is closed today. It's crazy. So I have to tell you, I get very upset when it gets this cold. And I think of the people, homeless people and animals, like animals who through no fault of their own, like they were dumped by their owner or they're feral or whatever. I feel really like dogs and cats that can't survive in this. They don't have the survival skills. I get really upset. It really bothers me. It really bothers me. My hair is looking like a little wonky here.
Could be that.
There we go. Yeah, that's better. Okay, let's get to it. So I think the DOJ is getting coal from Santa.
Okay.
Just the News, John Solomon's website, they have a lot of really interesting stories that you don't necessarily see in mainstream media. So I really like them because I think John Solomon does a great job. And I will post the links to these stories also in the description part of this video on YouTube. And I'll also put it on Spotify as well. So I'll put the links there on Spotify and Apple Podcasts as well, so you can grab them if you want to read them. He did a really excellent piece on the DOJ snooping on the House Intelligence Committee investigators during the Russia probe, according to some subpoenas. So the Justice Department used grand jury subpoenas to secretly obtain the personal email and phone data of at least two top House Intelligence Committee investigators back in November of 2017. The subpoenas were obtained by Just the News, John Solomon's organization, and they show that that the DOJ demanded that Google turn over personal email and phone data from two senior staffers on November 20th of 2017, and that responsive materials were returned to the DOJ by December 5th of 2017. So they turned that stuff over. Toot sweet.
Yep,
they turned that stuff over. Here you go. Let's see. The subpoenas were delivered during a critical time frame in the committee's effort to expose the Trump-Russia collusion investigation. Devin Nunes's committee was locked at the time in a bitter struggle to force the FBI and the DOJ to turn over records to the committee because they were trying to see if they made up this whole thing, if it was a hoax. So the DOJ and the FBI have great interest in preventing them from getting this information, right? The DOJ subpoenas came to light in the last few days when the former committee staffers were informed by Google that their records had been taken. That is consistent with their big tech's policy, Google's policy of alerting customers 5 years after law enforcement takes such actions. Excuse me, I sound like Nancy Pelosi right now. After they take such actions. So they did not know that until Google just notified them in the last couple of days. By the way, the DOJ gave us subpoenas and we turned over all of your personal information that we had to the DOJ.
Yes,
and that's how they found out. Let's see. Kash Patel, a former Intel Committee senior counsel, said, "It is shocking," he told Just the News, "because a co-equal branch of government, we as congressional investigators and Devin Nunes, his staff on House Intel, were conducting constitutional demanded oversight of the fraudulent acts at the FBI and the DOJ. which we now know happened. So while they're trying to find out what those intelligence agencies did, those intelligence agencies were spying, in turn spying on them. This is Banana Republic stuff, people. This is a big deal. Now, I know people are saying, it's not a big deal. We know it was a hoax, blah, blah, blah. No. This is a big deal. The DOJ and the FBI are out of control. They're running the government at this point. They're preventing Congress from oversight, which is Congress's responsibility and job.
Do we know why what information they pulled, or I guess they pulled everything? They know why. Is there a?
Oh, hold on. Funny you should ask. Hang on. Okay. Now, another House intelligence staffer whose records were subpoenaed by the DOJ confirmed to Just the News that he was notified last week by Google. He had worked extensively on investigating the FBI's Russia collusion conduct, including drafting the committee's report criticizing the FBI, reviewing sensitive documents, and fighting with the DOJ to gain access to the records. Devin Nunes said the subpoenas gave the DOJ and the FBI unprecedented potential to learn in real time what the investigation was learning about their misconduct in the Russia probe, so that they would know everything that they had and everything that they got and where it was going. So
how to react when the it started flying, essentially.
Right. So they knew if they didn't have certain material and they had to go in front of Congress and raise their right hand, which it doesn't matter, they get away with lying anyway. They knew they could say no to certain things because they knew that the committee didn't have certain papers or communications or whatever.
Pretty good intelligence work for shady Banana Republic stuff.
Right. The FBI, according to Devin Nunes, the FBI and the DOJ spied on a presidential campaign, and when Congress began exposing what they were doing, they spied on us to find out what we knew and how we knew it. It is an egregious abuse of power, and it needs to be reformed. Yeah. The subpoenas demanded records from Google, including all customer and subscriber account information for Kash Patel and the other staffer, including addresses, including mailing addresses, residential addresses, business addresses, email addresses, their usernames, their screen names, their local and long distance phone connection records, and even the means and source of payment for such services, including any credit card or bank account numbers and their billing records.
Wow.
That's insane.
Yeah.
And Google can't tell them this for 5 years.
You said that's Google's policy? They don't tell anybody for 5 years.
Google's policy. Yeah.
By the way, we split all your brain now. See you. Good luck with that. Hope that went well.
Sorry, you're spied on. Oops, our bad. The subpoena does not specify which component of the DOJ was leading the investigation, but included a numbering system suggesting that it was being handled by the U.S. Attorney's Office in Washington, D.C. Somebody, the U.S. Attorney in D.C. Former DOJ officials told Just the News that the department ordinarily would require subpoenas of congressmen or their staff to include approval from the AG, as well as some form of notification to congressional leadership. It's unclear whether those procedures were followed in the 2017 matter. Now, Nunes and Patel said that they had long suspected that the FBI or the DOJ might be monitoring their communications, especially after, at the time, Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein, remember, because Jeff Sessions recused himself like an idiot, and so Rod Rosenstein steps up and he's one of the deep swamp. Great. That's exactly what they wanted. According to Kash Patel, in one meeting in particular, Rod Rosenstein, who's known for losing his temper, had done so before, and in this meeting screamed at the chairman of the House Intel Committee and myself. He literally said verbatim, "If you're going to continue this investigation, I'm going to subpoena you and your records," looking at the chairman of the House Intelligence Committee and looking at his senior counsel and chief investigator on Russiagate.
Lots of overreach.
Yeah.
Alan, shock face. I mean,
hold on.
No, really?
John says plain old pathetic. No, plain old criminal. Alan Dershowitz says it's a violation of the separation of powers. Our framers specifically separated legislative, executive, and judicial powers. And that was saying all kinds of efforts to overcome them, that Congress is independent and has the right to investigate. The Department of Justice shouldn't be investigating the investigators unless there is fairly substantial proof of criminal conduct. So we don't know the whole story yet, but I'm very suspicious of subpoenas being issued by the grand jury. Because of course in DC, you get a grand jury on anybody, especially if they're conservative. I mean, then there's a grand jury, of course. Weeks before the staffers emailed were subpoenaed, Nunes's committee issued a series of its own congressional subpoenas demanding that the FBI, the DOJ, and the CIA turn over evidence that we now know would show that the FBI knew that the Steele dossier had been funded by the Clinton campaign and had been portrayed to the FISA court as credible when in fact they had already determined that it contained debunked or unverified claims. So they said, we want all this material. The DOJ, the FBI are like, oh crap, they want this material. So let's monitor them. Let's get a warrant to subpoena them. And we're going to get all these records so that we can follow what they're getting and what they're doing with it. It's crazy. The two staffers whose emails were targeted had both been allowed in a classified environment to read the FBI's then secret FISA warrants, targeting the Trump campaign, targeting Carter Page, and had begun pressing those federal agencies on what the FBI failed to tell the FISA court before it obtained 4 extraordinary intelligence warrants. So like, why, what did you guys know? Why were you doing this? And they were starting to ask a lot of questions. So I will put the link to this story though on YouTube in the description. I'll also put it on Apple Podcasts and Spotify so you can read more into this report yourself. All right. Now, let's see. James A says, my wife dressed the daughter today. She probably came within a layer or two of looking like the little brother in A Christmas Story. Randy, remember when Randy he goes, I can't put my arms down. I can't put my... I can't hear you. Your microphone's not working.
Really?
Yeah, it's not working. Sorry.
That's okay.
Wow. This is like every woman's dream, right? Say something. He's not saying it. Say something.
Hi.
Very, 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 very faint. Very far away. Very faint. Don't know why. All right, let's carry on, shall we, while he figures this out, which is fine. Okay, here's something else. These are like Santa's elves that are non-existent and they live at Twitter. Shocking, right? No, I can hear you very, very, very faintly in the background. Very faintly. Not at all now. Sorry. Why don't you go out and then come back and see if that happens? It's like our version of rebooting the system. You go out, you come back, and we'll see if it works. No, nothing. Got nothing, sweetie. You just sit there and go, yeah, goodbye. Poor thing. He's just sitting there mouthing the words. All right. So this piece in the San Francisco Standard talks about some people on Twitter. One of them is called Dr. Robert Honeyman. And last month, Dr. Honeyman lost his sister to COVID. Their sister to COVID. They wrote about it on Twitter and got all these condolences and over 4,000 retweets and 4,300 likes. And exactly 1 month later, on December 12th, Dr. Honeyman wrote that another tragedy had befallen his family. He said, sad to announce that my husband, Robert, their husband, so I guess he's gay, has entered a coma after being in the hospital with COVID. The doctor's unsure if he will come out. This year has been the toughest of my life, losing my sister to the virus. This is the first time in my life I don't see the light at the end of the tunnel. Again, tons of condolences, well wishes, but there's a problem. Honeyman's not real. Now, I don't know about you, but I have seen these things all over Twitter. Oh, I lost this one. Oh, I lost last one. People come out and go, oh, it's easy for you to say you haven't lost anyone to COVID. I lost both my grandparents and my father's in the hospital. And and I don't even believe half these claims, because either you have come from a really, really weak gene pool or you're lying. I just don't buy like all these deaths happen in like just your circle of friends. And like, I've got none. Like, I don't know anybody who died from COVID. Nobody. but yet, like you have 3 immediate family members who died from COVID. I'm not buying it. And it may be because they're not real accounts. So Honeyman is apparently, it was in his description, a transgender doctor of sociology and feminist studies. Now, I find that when people demand to be called doctor, it's 9 times out of 10 not a medical doctor, because most medical doctors like, yeah, whatever, and they just let it go unless they have a huge ego. They don't care. The ones who demand to be called doctor, like Jill Biden, usually have some kind of academic doctorate, right? Like she's like a doctorate of English studies or something like that, right? So this was apparently a doctor of sociology and feminist studies. So if you're not a doctor that's going to raise their hand when they say, does anybody on this plane know how, can anybody in this plane save a life? We have a heart attack victim. If your hand doesn't go up and you insist on being called doctor, go to the back of the line. I can't stand that. You there?
I'm back, I think.
Yay, you're back and your audio is better than ever. So I'm glad you're back. So we're talking about these guys and these accounts on Twitter that were saying things like, oh, I lost my sister to COVID. Oh, my partner's in the hospital, all this other stuff. And it turns out that when they did, another guy did some investigating, found out these people don't exist. They're not real. These Twitter accounts.
That's so bad.
John says, that's not a real doctor. Your husband's a real doctor. Thank you, John. We appreciate that. So this guy, Dr. Robert Honeyman, and he's a doctor of, in his description, a doctor of sociology and feminist studies with a keen interest in poetry, who uses they, them pronouns. And it turns out that if you look at his picture and you do an image search on it, it's a royalty-free, on an image-free royalty site called Deposit Photos. His picture comes up numerous times if you do an image search as a stock photo of a smiling, happy, handsome Latino man outside headshot portrait.
Always a scam somewhere.
Now, the supposedly comatose husband, also a doctor, Dr. Patrick C. Honeyman, was also fake. His Twitter photo had been stolen from an insurance professional in Wayne, Indiana.
Oh.
The 2 fake doctors whose accounts repeatedly urged extreme caution about COVID were part of a network of at least 4 fake accounts that touted their ties to the LGBTQ plus alphabet community. And they also vocally advocated for mask wearing and social distancing. And they would criticize those who felt that they were not taking the pandemic seriously. And I was saying while you were gone, like had run-ins with some of these people who are like, I've lost 2 immediate family members to COVID. It's real. I bet you, how do you haven't lost anybody to COVID. You can't talk. Like, there's no way you lost 2 immediate family members to COVID. I call BS on that one. Total and complete BS. So maybe they were fake profiles, because I think there's more than just 4 of them out there. The Honeymans cannot be reached for comment, as they do not exist. Now, this is the San Francisco Standard reporting. The fake doctors were uncovered by a man named Joshua Gutterman Trainin, who is a self-described gay writer who was pursuing a Master's of Fine Arts at Bennington College. Who, my hunch is, where are you going to go with that? Bennington College is stupid expensive. What are you going to do with your Master of Fine Arts, dude?
Well, you can clearly know what a Van Gogh's worth.
Yeah. No, fine arts is like, it's not art history. It's like fine arts is like English and poetry. That's fine arts.
Oh, I thought it was just the the study of the arts. Oh, I got
yeah,
it.
no, I think it's more like philosophy. It's like all that stuff.
Oh yeah.
Hey, Scotty's with us. Scotty, our man who had a breakup at Christmas. So Scotty says Merry Christmas. All right. He saw Robert Honeyman's tweet about his husband being in a coma, and he noticed people that he followed also followed them. And he thought that they might be part of the LGBTQ plus academic community. So he wanted to interview them because he's a gay writer. And so after 10 minutes of Googling, he concluded that Honeyman's photo was a stock image, and the bio stretched the boundaries of believability. An academic who left no traces on academic websites and had lost 2 members to COVID in late 2022, despite extensive masking and distancing. He said the character looked like liberal Mad Libs. He said, I'm a self-identified leftist, and I understand that people have a lot of different identities, but it felt concocted in the lab about how many identities and horrible experiences we can put on one person. Jerry says, it blows my mind that these people don't make the connection. If you have to make it up to find an example, maybe it's not really a thing. Or maybe they were being paid to put this up there. Who knows?
Well, right. And I think in this guy's case, he's just a rational human. And it's not political at all. He's a rational human and sees that there's something wrong and somebody's clearly not what they say they are. And guess what? You call people out for that stuff, right? It's what we talk about all the time. It doesn't matter. It's not a team thing. Scamming people. It doesn't matter what your thing is. When you're
right,
you got to call out people who are liars and cheats. That's just what you do.
Or it's an attention getting thing where this guy just, because he got thousands and thousands of retweets and thousands of condolences. It's like a Munchausen thing, like Munchausen, which is better. It's Munchausen by proxy as opposed to,
Right.
doing it to his kid or somebody who's really getting sick because of them. So maybe this
Right.
was just his way of getting attention. But
Maybe.
both, it is unclear who created the two doctors, but their bios and their personas, they say, are meant to appeal to a certain type of Twitter person: liberal, pro-diversity, concerned about COVID, or it's meant to provoke the opposite type of that person, like to provoke people with the, and get the reaction out of it. Both doctors presented themselves as member of the alphabet community. Robert displayed the trans and Ukrainian flags in his Twitter name. Patrick had a rainbow flag in his. Robert wrote openly about suffering from MPX, an infectious disease that caused San Francisco to declare a state of emergency. You know what MPX is, don't you?
Mm-mm.
Monkeypox.
Oh, right. Oh, I saw. Did you see just because you said it? The Saturday Night Live is just vaguely political. Live, what they call the weekend update. Their joke about that.
No, on Saturday Night Live, no.
That's the only thing funny on Saturday Night Live really is Colin Jost and Michael Che when they do the updates, because they write each other's jokes and they try and make get each other. If anybody doesn't know, they try and like write stuff that will make the other cringe. So Michael Che wrote for him about that monkeypox thing, and they took the M out of it because it was racist. And he goes, "Well, if that's racist, I wonder what the N in N95 mask means." And you can see look on his face. He's like, "Oh God, why? Why would you make me do that?" What? Yeah. But so that's what it is. That's what the initials are.
That's what he said. MPX. What else is it? That's what San Francisco declared a state of emergency over earlier this year. Was there something else they declared a state of emergency over?
You're married to a doctor. Can you die from monkeypox? You just get real itchy, right?
Well, it's a disgusting. I mean, it's gross. Like
it is, right? Yeah.
Gross. Yeah. And it had largely spread among men who have sex with men. So we're talking monkeypox.
Yeah. So yeah.
And here's what he wrote. They keep saying they. I have to say he because I can't. He said, "Don't believe what the media has been sharing. It's a horrible disease that has had me bedridden." They and also claimed to have been a victim of a transphobic attack in October. So this guy had monkeypox. It was in bed. Was the victim of a transphobic attack in October. Had who died? Somebody. His sister died of COVID, and then a month later, his husband is in bed with COVID, and in the hospital with COVID. Not by, it's too much. It's like really, dude, nobody's buying this. So good on this guy though, who is part of the gay community, and this is what's happening. The gay community, gay, trans, the alphabet community. They're starting to turn on these people who are just they're caricatures, like these men who dress as women, like suddenly I'm a woman. It's like cosplay. They're exaggerated. They're not. It's almost like a stereotypical mocking version of what a woman is. That's what they do. They prance around, and like no woman I know walks like that. No woman I know prounces around like that, flouncy like that. They're a stereotype, and it's disgusting. And it's good to see people start to turn on that. Another account associated with these other two is Dr. Gerald Fisher, who displayed a rainbow, a trans and Ukrainian flags next to his name, and he described himself as an ally for all in the LGBTQ community. #wear a mask. His account has since been taken down. There was a fourth account Dr. Stephen Steele, who claimed an affiliation with the University of Antwerp and described himself as an LGBTQ plus ally and a proud mask wearer. All 4 doctors had a few things in common, according to this writer who did the investigation. 3 created their accounts during the pandemic. Fisher's account dated to 2019, but his early tweet was from July of 22. They also frequently interacted with one another. And their tweets, they often retweeted each other and everything else. Robert Honeyman claimed that Fisher, who he said was covering from post-COVID brain fog, was the sharpest individual they met at university. The 2 doctors sent greetings to each other's families. So there were 4 guys, or it's like one guy who created the 4 accounts or whatever. We'll never know who they were.
Right.
So, and people started to respond to the thread and saying, "Oh, come on, stop protesting. I wish we had similar lockdown measures here." When this guy was outing them, joking around, and when the writer was outing them. Isn't
it amazing how much we just want to believe somebody or something that we override all of our senses? Like, have you ever looked at it arguing, like a thread where people are arguing and realize that somewhere in there somebody was a bot, or maybe even the original thing came from some kind of bot, and people will still argue with the bot, make comments with the bot, or like pick up on the people that were supporting the bot or whatever my point is, and they could be more bots, but like it's usually pretty easy to find that it's a bot. And then you just keep arguing because you want to see your typing. You just want to yell to I guess a echo chamber, or I just don't get why.
Finish. I'm sorry.
No, I just don't get it. I don't get why people are so like wanting to type something out and believe something when if they just clicked on the profile and you'd be like, yeah, I don't know, I'm saying this guy wasn't good, but most of the time when you look at these profiles, if you look at it just for a minute, you're like, I don't know, it's just squirrely. This guy's clearly looks like he's trying to rabble rouse. It's probably a bot.
This from the guy who never tweets.
Oh yeah, but I mean it's that bad on Facebook. It's not on Instagram, but on Facebook,
100%.
It's the same thing. It's that whether you're on any of those. It's just people want to believe or be mad at the thing they read with no context or even sure if it's a person. They just want to shoot their mouth off in an echo chamber. Just they know they see people piling on. They're like, yeah, me too. I hate you. 855-946 Seth Ukraine. Wherever.
Well, I think so. I think some people are bored, and I think some people just have way too much time on their hands. These are the people who are getting paid over $100,000 in New Jersey to sit on their butts on unemployment, and they just have too much time. Unlike the rest of us who are going to be working like crazy people for the next week, or someone like you who's a kept man. So there you go. You should file for your benefits, dude.
Maybe I have.
Okay.
Maybe my little back time I already have. We'll see how that rolls out.
All right, good. I can't imagine that they're not going to challenge you, though.
They're not.
I'd be shocked. Okay, this is right up your alley. Scott says maybe not just a bot, but maybe somebody from a foreign country wants to cause trouble from this country. Usually if someone from another country spouting off, someone goes to their page and goes, okay, Canada, sit down and shut up. Just calls them out on it. And I've called people out for being bots before. I'm like, okay, bot. All right. I just got bot with the finger pointing down at their, retweet their tweet, and people jump in and then I just ignore them. The mute button on Twitter is the best thing ever because people don't know that you're not following them because they don't get a notification that you've muted them. When you block somebody, you say you can't respond to this tweet. It shows you the thing and this account has blocked you. And then of course you retweet that and go, got another one. It's a badge of honor. So I don't give them that badge of honor. I just mute them and then I never see what they say. Nice. And it's beautiful. It's a wonder. I wish there was a mute button in real life. You could just go.
God. Oh, it'd be great.
and you. You can just mute people.
Oh yeah.
All right. Okay. So the Marine Corps. Is being urged to stop calling instructors sir and ma'am and to be more gender inclusive. I I knew this would drive you crazy. All right, so there was a report that was done, 378 pages, an in-depth study that was done. The two PhDs, Bradley Nindel and Mita Lovalekar, were the two main leads on a University of Pittsburgh academics study. 22 academics, excuse me, from the University of Pittsburgh concocted the study. And this study is about how they can make the military more inclusive. So I'm sure your tax dollars went to pay for this. I would be shocked if your taxpayers aren't paying for this. It's from the University of Pittsburgh. It was commissioned by the course. There you go. So you did pay for it in 2020, and it took them this long to get it together. All right. The report offers a detailed independent study on gender integration at boot camp, and it suggests that Marines should take time to make both genders feel more at ease when hearing responses from aspiring privates. Like I said, 738 pages. They have a whole host of prospective changes that the Marines can implement to make drill instructors of both genders feel more comfortable when being addressed by cadets. Here's my thing. If being addressed as ma'am or by sir makes you uncomfortable, you probably shouldn't be a Marine. I want my Marines to be a tad tougher than that, right? Like, what happens if they're captured by the enemy? Are they not going to be able to handle it because the enemy calls them, puts him in with the dudes instead of in with the women or something? Like they can't handle that? Really?
I need my safe space while you give me this little prison cell. Where's my safe space to be away from these people? Because I'm not feeling good about this prison term at all. I don't like being captured.
I'm feeling anxious right now. My anxiety is just too high. I saw that today. I was watching Teen Mom, the next chapter, where they merged like some of the old team, the two shows of the Teen Moms, and one of them has a beef with another one, and so she couldn't be on the stage with the other one at the same. This is not what I agreed to. This is not what I thought was happening. So one's in the back row, far right of your screen, and the other's in the front row on the far left, so they're apart from each other. So the one in the back row is like crying back in her room. I can't be on the stage at the same time in her. I'm sorry. I thought I could handle the anxiety, but my anxiety is just too high. I'm like, put on your big girl panties and get the hell out there, sweet thing. You're sitting in the back row at the opposite end of the stage. What's your problem?
And look, 100%. Look, in the Marine Corps or any military at this point, I don't. And this goes to when I just feel like you have some like middle of the ground, normal response to human beings, right? Like, again, I don't think either of us care if you want to identify as they or follow along that prescribed thing. That's not my thing. I don't have a problem with it, and it's great. And I'll even, trying to being, but I think if you're making the pledge to join the military, where your job is to protect the country by maybe having to kill people and or supporting those people that are going to have to go do the killing, you would think like, well, I know they put this box or this box, and when I have to change with people, which one of those people do I want to change with, right? Because they're not going to have like gender neutral changing rooms in the military, right? At some point they're going to biologically decide like, hey, you got to go over here and you got to go over here.
Yeah, I don't know what they're going to do.
It's not going to work any other way. Like, you can't have a military the size of our military where everybody gets individual dressing rooms and nobody gets gender assigned. Like that, we just have gender neutral drill sergeants and everybody gets their own little cubicle. Like, it's not gonna. It'll just. There's no way that can work. And who are those killers again? Like, if you're that uncomfortable that you can't go, well, I probably lean more girl, so I guess I'm going to do that part of the military to protect the country. Don't join the military.
No, I'm with you. I'm with you. But a lot of them join the military because they get free medical treatment. They get, and that's why a lot of them are in it, because they can get a gender reassignment surgery for free, and they can get all the meds and everything else for free. So that's why I think a lot of them join. Scott says just call them Sam for Sir Ma'am. Combination Sam. By the way, you're kind of breaking up, so I don't know what's going on with your internet. But you're back. So.
Oh, good.
I didn't want to tell you because you were on a roll there. So when you were on your roll, you were kind of like, breaking up and then coming
Oh.
back and breaking up and coming back. All right. So they, as I said, they recommend that aspiring privates call their superiors by their last names instead. The study already has its opponents, as one can imagine. Colonel Howard Hall, the Chief of Staff for Marine Corps Training and Education Command, said, it's not a quick fix, integrating women more into, into the military and them, they and Z and whatever. He said, we want to avoid any quick fix solutions that introduce perturbations down the line. It's not ours to implement alone. And he maintains that even if the Corps implements the change at its training facilities, cadets would likely have to adapt once again addressing senior officers by sir or ma'am when they find themselves in the field, as soldiers would not likely enforce the rules. In the field, it's sir or ma'am. That's it.
100%.
Now, in the report, they do say that the Army, the Navy, and the Coast Guard de-emphasize gender in an integrated environment. Instead of saying ma'am or sir, recruits in those services refer to their drill instructors using their ranks or their roles, followed by their last name. So it'd be Sergeant Rabick, like that.
I'm just perplexed how that's going to make anybody more comfortable in training environments where their job is to break you down and make you uncomfortable.
But
right?
they don't break them down anymore. They don't. Like Officer and a Gentleman and the tactics that they used in Officer and a Gentleman, you can't do now. They're not allowed to yell at them the way they used to. It's the wussification of our military. This country is screwed. Screwed, I'm telling you.
I don't imagine it's as PC as people imagine it is, though. I just saw a whole ex-Navy SEAL talking about how they're trying to again go after the Navy SEAL training because it's too dangerous because somebody died not that long ago. And he was like, the threat of death is why that training is what it is. You can't ask these people to do these really those kind of mission sets that they do, right? I mean, these crazy kind of things that you're asking these people to do, and not have part of it is that going through this really hard training, that shared experience of going through that hard training, to know that you're going to be going through the hardest things the military will give you.
Right. And it's about building it's teamwork and stuff, right?
Teamwork,
It's doing all of that and making sure the guy next to you doesn't die.
Because by the way, it's voluntary, because you can quit the hardest training on the planet that people have died from. So you're volunteering for this. It's not like you're going into it, they're forcing you to go through this brutal training and they're whipping you, and you volunteer to go through something extraordinarily hard. Any of them, SEAL, Ranger, Green Beret, Marine Corps Raider, any of them, they're all hard, right? The hardest part of the Coast Guard training is brutal. Any of these services, people have died training because you're training for war.
Right. 100%.
You're not training to make friends, right? It's not because I want to make them comfortable. So I hope they're happy, right? And I hope you're feeling fulfilled. It's the idea that what if we go to war with the Russians and they start coming through Alaska and Canada and want to cut the pipeline? And I'm just doing the Red Dawn storyline. But yeah, my point, like, what if that really happened? Like,
you're right. You're on a roll. You're on a roll. I was letting you go.
Thanks. That is what you're preparing for, right? Like, you're preparing for the concept that you may have to go to war. What if it was here? Like,
right.
It's just.
I agree.
But why we even acknowledge it is my problem. Like, I can't believe we're even having the conversation. Like, why is the military even entertaining this? Why are they not going, no, stay home?
Yeah, I agree. But it is what it is. So in the time that we have left, since it is just before Christmas, I thought we could do a non-political topic and talk about your traditions surrounding the day and surrounding Hanukkah as well, right? Because I know some people have Hanukkah traditions as well. So like for me, when I was a kid, my dad's German, so Santa decorated the tree. In Germany, the kids wake up and you get your presents actually Christmas Eve in Germany. But my mom said, okay, she kind of did a compromise with my dad, and we decorate the tree on Christmas Eve and go to midnight mass. And then in the morning, we had to get up and sing happy birthday to the baby Jesus before we were allowed to open any presents, because it was Jesus's birthday. That's the only reason you were getting presents. And we had to do a good deeds list when we were kids. So on the door to the basement was in the kitchen. we each had a piece of paper, just like an 8.5 by 11 lined paper, right? And it had your name, and it had all your chores down the left side, and then it had the dates across the top, right? And then if you did your chore, you got to put a star or an X or whatever it happened to be there, and that was your good deeds list. And then on Jesus's birthday, you gave him your good deeds list as your gift to him. So Catholic guilt started early in my parents' home. That's what we had to do.
Have you been good enough to send your list to Santa? Wow.
So we did that. So we always decorated the tree on Christmas Eve. Now with my husband, we take it further and we decorate the tree in January because between the two of us, we work such insane hectic schedules in the weeks leading up to Christmas. And then between Christmas Day, he's working Christmas Eve, Christmas Day after Christmas. And then I'm working 7 hours of radio, television, and then I'm doing TV and I'm doing podcasts the week between Christmas and New Year's. That nothing's happening. There will be no motion whatsoever. I had a protein bar for dinner tonight.
Right.
That's what I had. I had a protein bar for dinner tonight. That was it. And I still have stuff to do when I get off the air because I have a show tomorrow. So I've got to print out all these stories. I got to read them. I got to highlight and make notes. I have no clue who my guests are tomorrow because nobody's told me. So, so that's what we do. So we take the whole putting the tree up Christmas Eve thing a little far. And when we would watch it, we would watch the Yule log on Channel 11, WPIX 11. How many people remember the Yule log? If you grew up in the New York area, the New York, New Jersey area, Channel 11 played the Yule log for hours. And it was really just, and I didn't know this, just 15 minutes of a burning log. And they just looped it with Christmas carols behind it. It was great. There were great Christmas carols, and we'd have it on the TV, even though we had a fireplace. The Yule log was still on TV, and they took it away, and it was gone for years. And so people started you could buy the DVD of the Yule log. Actually, it was a videotape back in the day. You could buy the videotape of the Yule log, and it was so popular they brought it back. So Channel 11 has the Yule log back now, which is great. It's awesome.
You know, some smart salesman pitched them back like, hey, I got the Yule log sold. We got to bring the Yule log back. You know, I'm sure it was a smart salesman.
Well, people are buying videos and DVDs of your Yule log. Just bring the dopey thing back. But there's 100%. No commercials during it. It is like 3 hours of just Christmas music with this log that never burns. Like it just keeps, because it's only 15 minutes and the Yule log never gets smaller. A hand doesn't come in and put another log in. It's just the same 15 minutes of the burning log. It's awesome.
We had it down here on 6 ABC too. Same thing. 15-minute.
Oh, did they?
Yeah, same exact thing. I don't even know if it was the same log, but it was the same.
Maybe it's syndicated. Maybe Channel 11 syndicated the Yule log.
That's funny.
Because the Yule log had to start back in the easily the early 60s, if not the late 50s.
Right.
Yeah, on Channel 11.
Yeah.
Yep. And when I was a real little kid, I used to put my feet in front of the TV and think that it was making my feet warm. And which my parents loved to. My parents loved to tell me, they're like, you were so dumb as a kid that you used to put your feet in front of the fire with no socks on. My feet, my feet are so warm. Such an idiot.
That's great.
So what do you guys do?
So I guess we're building some new traditions, right? My parents are busy church musicians, so they have masses on Christmas Eve and on Christmas, and we're going to sing at the Christmas one together, and then we're going to do dinner with them and sneak her parents in, her mom and family siblings in sometime during the day. We might start go to a midnight mass somewhere. We might try.
Okay, so let me ask you. Well, so a couple things. First of all, Scott says Merry Christmas, y'all. Merry Christmas, Scott. So are you combining the families just yet, or are you doing like going to her family and then?
Yep, we're gonna do that. Yeah, we're gonna.
Okay, you're gonna do that.
Yeah.
I think Scott's leaving us. He says it's been a nice evening. Scott, if you're leaving, have a wonderful Christmas. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you on Tuesday. And I'd love to, you can update us on how things have been going with the ex and whether she's no longer an ex. And if you meet up, we'll get the whole story. So that's on Tuesday.
Right.
So have your parents met like her cousin and everything, all that stuff, or not?
No, they haven't met her yet either. Nope. So far,
okay.
Just, yeah.
So we're keeping because this has been very fast. So we're keeping the families separate for now.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it'll happen at some point, but yeah, there's no need to rush it now.
Right.
Yeah, it's not.
Okay.
Nobody's like, hey, we got to do this right at the moment, so we're good. Yeah.
All right. So midnight mass. When was the last time you were at mass?
Well, I've been going to mass, so that's I've been doing that.
Oh, good.
Yeah, but I'm only singing on Christmas, so we'll see what happens after that.
But that's that's nice.
She likes to see my parents do the church thing, so whenever they're doing a mass together, she likes to go. So
now, is your midnight mass at your church at midnight?
They don't do so. My church doesn't do that. St. Mary's doesn't do a midnight mass.
A lot of the Catholic churches aren't doing midnight mass. They're doing, like, we have one at 5 o'clock and like 10:30 or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. We have two, 10:30 and like a 4:30.
Now, when we were going to St. Michael's down the road, we left our church. We were boycotting. We went to St. Michael's for many years. That parish is so big. So they have like a little church in the basement, like the overflow crowd.
Right.
And the reason I love going there is their Christmas masses are every hour. It's boom, 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 boom. So it's great, right?
Wow.
But they have a midnight mass, and the midnight mass has the baptisms, confirmations, first communions, like the people who are becoming Catholic as adults. Like they go through, they get like 3 sacraments in one shot. They do all 3 of those in one shot. And so it's long, but it's beautiful. Right. And they do a whole bunch of it in Latin, and they do the Gloria. It's absolutely gorgeous. It's a beautiful, beautiful mass, but it could be long. But I think one year we counted, I think the last time we went between Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, they had upwards of 14 masses. Because while there's a mass in the main church, they have mass downstairs in the basement. So if you can't get in upstairs, you can go to mass downstairs in the basement, and they've got another one going down there. True. So it's crazy, but I love going there because it's like boom, boom. It's 1 hour in and out. For Christmas mass, it's great.
Yeah, that's great. In and out. Yeah, that's the way to do it.
Living at the shore with our original priest when I moved here, it was 35 minutes because he knew at the shore, especially in the summer, 35 minutes in and out pod. He was great, but he gave a good sermon. He got his point across, and that was it. He didn't feel it.
His homily was short and sweet. Yeah, short and sweet.
He got his point across, didn't feel a need to remake the point 18 different ways from Sunday. He just made his point, and that was it. And he punched out. It was fantastic.
Yep.
Where Scott is, he says, the snow is blowing here. It is cold. So that'll be nice. Kind of a white Christmas, a little bit. So, and then what are you guys doing Christmas Day? You're going to go, what are you doing?
That's what we're doing Christmas Day. I think we're going to do the early mass, the 10:30 mass. We're singing at that. And then we'll probably go see her family for a little bit and then come back with my parents for dinner.
Nice.
Yeah.
I think our little bar in town is open, I think, till 2. So hopefully hubby will be home from work because he's got to see patients in the hospital. He's got to make the rounds at the hospital since he's working. And because those annoying people in the ICU apparently demand that they be seen, and they demand care on Christmas. So selfish.
Right.
Can't believe it. Right. So selfish.
So
hopefully he'll be home in time, but we can't stay out super late. And our neighbors invited us over. They have like a big, huge open house.
Yeah.
So we're going to go there just for like, hi, how you doing? Have a drink. Because I have to work because I have to prepare a show for Monday, for the 26th, because I'm working.
Good stuff.
I can only do half a day on Christmas. I got to get home and get my act together and get everything, ready to go. So I'm going to do that. So unfortunately, one of these days when I win the lottery, I'm actually going to bake for Christmas. I used to love to do that when I was, back when I had a normal job. Right. I did so much baking for Christmas, and we put all the cookies in the freezer, and it would be great to spritz cookies and the decoration. I love that. I just love that. So one of these years when I win the lottery, I'm going to do that again. Can't wait.
I have lottery dreams. Baking sounds nice when I'm rich. Yeah.
Yes, when I'm rich and I can afford the butter.
Right.
Eggs and butter are so expensive. Like, I'm kind of glad I don't have the time because it's so expensive now. It's ridiculous. Protein bar. I'll just give out protein bars, wrapped protein bars. Here you go. Chocolate chip. It's as if I made cookies. You put it on a plate, you put it in the oven, same thing.
Wait, plate oven? That could be a game changer.
I take my protein bars, I put them on a plate, and I put them in the microwave, actually. I put them in the microwave for like 15. Yeah, 15, 20 seconds, and they taste just like a warm chocolate chip cookie. It's amazing. Follow me for more helpful recipes.
That's right.
That's
How
my
to make
idea
health
of cooking.
food great.
So I'm trying to think what else we decorate the tree. The big thing when I was a kid was the good deeds list, singing happy happy birthday to Jesus, and then we could open our presents, and that was it.
Right.
But like I remember there were some Christmases where somebody didn't get a present, or somebody got a present but it had like you could tell somebody walked on the box and broke it, and it said there was a note from Santa that was left, because Santa always responded to the note. We would leave milk and cookies, and Santa would always leave like a little note on it, right? And Santa was so sorry that Rudolph stepped on your gift. He was getting tired, right? But I'll bring you another one, right? I'll return, and I'll have one of my elves drop off another one. And it's because one of my parents, like at 2:00 in the morning, stepped on the present and crushed it. One year, Santa brought my brother a drum set.
Oh.
Yeah, dumb mistake. And I will never forget to this day, hand to God, true story. That evening, my mother had the drum set right up to here, right? Right up to here. She gave my brother a pair of scissors and says, "Want to see what makes it go boom?"
Oh, no. Stab. Oh, it's so mean.
She's like, "Oh, now it's broken. Sorry."
I literally teach that to my students. Here's what you can do. You can hit them as hard as you want. Just never pretend you have scissors in your hand and start stabbing away at them, right? That doesn't work.
Yeah. That was the end of the drum set.
Oh, no.
There were a lot of tears. My mother's like, "Well, you shouldn't have done that."
It was a test and you failed.
And I have a gazillion stories about my dad with Christmas trees, because we used to call my dad Bargain Basement Ralph because he didn't pay for anything, and I've inherited that gene. Like, again, the heat's not on in this house because I'm making it to January 1st without putting the heat on because I'm saving money. Damn it, right?
Right.
So I'm the same. I clearly got that side of the family's genes. The Germans, very, very tight with the money. And my father, one year, and I'm sure you've heard this story, James. My father came home with a tree. One year he goes, "Oh, we don't have to go get a tree," because we would go get a tree. The Boy Scouts would sell them at the Country Carnival, which was the ice cream place in town, and across the street from the Methodist Church, they'd sell them too. So we would go to the Boy Scouts and get a tree. And my parents inevitably picked the night like tonight, where it's raining, gale force winds, right? 10,000 degrees below zero. Nobody wants to go, but my parents insist we all get in the car. We're going to have a family event and we're buying a tree, right? And you will have fun. And be like, "I don't want to go." And we're miserable. I'm soaking wet. I'm muddy. It's terrible trying to buy a tree. And my mother would want one that's perfect, and my father would want the cheapest one he could find. So we'd finally get a tree, put it on the roof of the car, bring it home. And, there was always a problem. So one year my dad comes home with a tree and he goes, I found a tree on Washington Valley Road. It was on the side of the road. So we're like, "Oh, something fell off a truck," right? It's Jersey. Things fall off trucks in Jersey. So we got a free tree because it fell off a truck. And my dad brings it home. It was the saddest Christmas tree you have ever seen. My mother's like, "Someone pushed it off a truck," right? It was a Charlie Brown tree. It was the saddest thing. My father's like, "We'll put the bad side," because we put it in a corner in our TV room, because we'll put the bad side in the corner. My mother's like, "Well, then you better build a box around it because it's all there's no good side."
It's all like
Ukrainian Polly. This is a new one. Welcome to the show, Ukrainian Polly. Glad to have you. Welcome. And so my dad refused to buy a tree stand because he thought it was a gimmick, right? So he wouldn't buy a tree stand. Refused. I don't even know if they have one now. So his brother was a baker, so he would get the big icing buckets, which is like a painter's bucket today, like the spackle comes in like the big bucket.
Yeah.
And my father would put the tree in the bucket in sand, and he would put bricks on either side to stabilize it. and put sand in it and pack the sand down. And so we had to stand there for holding the tree. My father lugged sand into the house. My mother's yelling at him because there's sand everywhere because we've had to put it on plastic, right? And the sand, put it in and tamping it down. See, the tree stands up perfectly. Every year without fail, the damn tree fell. In the middle of the night, you hear crash, right? And the tree's on the ground. So, because it never stayed, because my father refused to buy a tree stand. So my father, we just put it in a corner, moved it to a different room in a corner, took the 2 pictures off the wall and ran fishing line to the hooks on the wall to keep the tree up because he refused to buy a stand. We have a picture when my husband and I were dating, and he's behind the wall. He got put in the corner to hold the tree. My father's like packing the sand down and tying it up, everything. And he's like, I can't get out now. Crawl down the bottom. So yeah, so we didn't have a tree stand for years. It was hilarious. The shenanigans. My brothers and my father went out and got a tree one year. And we lived, there were like 500 acres of woods behind our house that we played in as kids. It was a great place to play. It was an old tree farm. So my brothers and my father were going to the old abandoned tree farm, and they're cutting down a tree. So they find a tree, they kill it, they bring it home, they saw it down, they drag it through the woods, they drag it home. It was like a Norman Rockwell painting. It's on the back porch. My mother's like, I don't know. I think it looks big. My father says, it's perfect. It's a great tree. It's a beautiful tree. It's a great tree. My brothers and my father bring it in the house. It's a bonding moment for the boys. They can't stand it up because it's too tall. So they start cutting off the bottom and cutting off the bottom. So now they're to the point, right? So they start cutting off the top a little bit here, a little bit there. By the time we were done, we had the only Christmas cylinder. It looked like it started in the basement and continued on the second floor. It was the biggest Christmas tree they ever. It's ridiculous. So dumb. But it was free.
Free.
So my father loved it.
Oh, it's great though.
And Heather and I had a tradition for a long time, and I know I'll get going here. I'm taking up too much time. But I'd love to hear your traditions. Put them in here. I'll read them. We'll put them up on the screen. What did Scott say here? He said, I really needed that when I have protein bars that are kind of old. I never figured out about the microwave. Yeah, like 15, 20 seconds in the microwave. He also has a helpful hint. If the snow is blowing, make sure your car windows are closed tight, or else you get a pile of snow on your front seat. That is very true. So we started a tradition here. We have a lot of Jewish friends. And one of my Jewish friends is very, very interested in Christmas years and years ago. And so we invited him to come decorate our tree. And he's like, really? I can come decorate? He was so excited. So we invited him and his wife, and she wouldn't come. She was not on board of the decorating Christmas tree thing for years. So he came, and I have pictures of him putting the angel on the top. He loved every minute of it. He insisted we put Christmas carols on. He wanted the full experience. So finally, his wife started to come, and she would make mandelbrot, which is amazing. And we'd have, a little Italian antipasto, and we Christmas carols. So then another friend of mine who's Jewish found out that I was doing this, and they're good friends. And she said, well, she was asking me a lot of questions about decorating the tree. And I'm like, well, do you want to come decorate the tree? She's like, well, I didn't know, are we allowed to do that? I'm like, yeah, why can't you decorate the tree? So she and her husband came, and then and brought their daughter, and then their friend wanted to come, who we know, so they came with her husband and their daughter, and then they wanted to bring the cantor from. So we had so many Jews here. I had to have 2 trees. We had more.
So enough the decoration room.
We had 2 trees one year because I had so many Jews decorating our Christmas trees. It was hilarious.
That's awesome.
The problem is they love big ornaments. So they love buying that stuff. So they would come with, I have Christmas plates, I have Christmas pillows, I have Christmas ornaments. They love buying this stuff, and they can't use it. So they have very good taste, but the ornaments were so huge. I'm like, I can't hang this on the tree. This is too heavy. But they didn't know it was beautiful, gorgeous ornaments. But I was like, we're going to have to do something else with this because I can't hang this on the tree. So, so we even had the original, the couple that started it. We got them to putting the lights on it. We just sat back, had a couple of drinks, like, oh, you need more lights there. Oh, and they loved it. They decorated the whole thing. And we ate and drank, and they made us put the Christmas classics on for their kids in front of the TV. It was awesome. It's fantastic.
So you had a Christmas tree service and a party before any of that was even a thing.
Exactly. And my husband was trying to figure out how to get them to try to rope them into thinking that undecorating the tree is a thing.
Yeah.
And wrapping up the ornaments and putting it away and doing all that. Like we were trying to get them thinking. Didn't work. They never. And then when we started construction on the house, we didn't have a Christmas tree for a couple of years, and the whole thing fell apart, and that was it. So we have not had the Jews back to decorate.
That sounds like a good time. I grew up in Cherry Hill, which is, especially at the time, was pretty Jewish. And
it's New Jersey.
Yeah, and true. And but I knew a few Jewish people that like to celebrate Christmas and they just enjoyed the holiday, for the spirit of it.
Yeah.
When you could do that without it being cultural appropriation, apparently.
I don't think we care about it being cultural. We don't. We're like, yeah, sure. Right. The only thing I do kind of have a thing on is when they have a tree and they call it a Hanukkah bush, and that's a bridge too far for me. I don't take the menorah and just call it a candelabra for Christmas. Okay, you know what I mean?
It's just over the line, but it's comedic enough that I'll let it go.
Yeah. Let's see. Yeah. Okay. I'm just looking for more comments before we bail out of here. So as I said, I will put my schedule up. I'm in for Rob Carson tomorrow on Newsmax TV, noon to 3. I'll put that up in the description here. This podcast, if James and I can get it together quickly enough, will be up on Apple Podcasts and Spotify tonight, hopefully. Fingers crossed if we can get it together quickly enough. And I'll put all the instructions about where I am and how to listen. Do you have anything coming up you want to plug?
I don't, other than I'll get that to you tonight. So yes.
And James needs a job if somebody wants to hire him, right?
I'll take one or two.
Jobs?
Yeah, sure.
Okay,
I'm a hard-working guy.
So he does need 1 or 2 jobs if anybody would like to hire James. All right. So thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. Love you. Have a wonderful, blessed, incredible Christmas. I hope you get to spend it the way you want to spend it. Some people love spending it alone. I've done that. When I was working in DC, I had more than one Christmas by myself. And I had one Christmas with Rhoda and Stuart. And they took me, they took me to a Chinese restaurant.
Oh, that's awesome. That's great. It's a great tradition. I love that. Yeah.
It was awesome. And we couldn't get into the restaurant they wanted to go to because it was full of Jews, right? Because that's what they do. And Rhoda was so mad that Stuart didn't make a reservation. She was so mad at him. So we had to go to like a Polynesian restaurant, which was okay. It wasn't great, but they walk in and they know everybody in the place. And I was like, of course you do. So I did Chinese food with the Jews 1 year when I was living in DC by myself.
That's awesome. That's fantastic. That's a great tradition. Yeah.
Christmas was like a Wednesday or something. It's like, are we going to the movies too? We have to go to the movies.
That's the thing. Movies and Chinese. That's it.
Exactly.
That's the one. Yeah.
Scott says his Christmas tradition was going to grandma's house. We did that when I was little. When I was a little kid, we would kind of go to my grandparents' house, but usually the grandparents came to us, Right,
exactly, yeah.
The grandparents usually came to our house most of the time. So, all right. I got one comment here I need to bring up. Bill says, Merry Christmas to you both. Thank you so much, Bill. Merry Christmas to you as well. And we will see you all on Tuesday. Again, have a blessed holiday and happy Hanukkah. I refuse to wish you happy Kwanzaa because that's a made-up holiday. Sorry. And we'll see you. Have a great weekend. We'll see you on Tuesday. Bye-bye.
"'Twas the night before Christmas at the Bada Bing. Not a stripper was wearing a single G-string. The boys, they were stationed by the back door with care, in fear that Filiatato soon might be there. The next thing I saw made me light in my head. It was Christopher, my nephew, back from the dead.
Yeah, Tone, it's your nephew. That's right, it's me. You thought you killed me in that SUV.
You can't be Chrissy, you're some other guy. I pinched his nose, I watched him die.
No, I'm your nephew, Tone. That's right, I'm back. I hope I give you another heart attack.
Oh! Next thing I know, Christopher vanished, like pancakes in front of my sister Janice. Then who to my wondering eyes should appear but Silvio and his wise guy Reindeer?
On Paulie, on Big Puss, on Vito, on Benny, on Johnny Thack, and his fat-ass wife Jenny. Phil's crew's on the way, so quick out the back. Get in my car, or we'll all get whacked.
I watched them all pile in the Sil's Cadillac, all except Jenny, who'd stop for a snack. And I heard Sil exclaim as he drove off the lot.
Take the wheel, Paulie. I think I've been shot.